Hello, this is Mr. McLeod, and I'm going to be doing a little demo on how to control the color of your graphics objects. So we're going to start by, if you go to Docs and see at the top here, if you click on Circle, you'll see that in order to set the color for a graphics object, you need to say circle.setColor or whatever the variable name is for your graphics object, right? And this is true for rectangles, circles, lines, text, everything. They all have the set color method, okay? And then what you need to pass in here is a legitimate color. And there's several different ways you can get a color. So that's what we're going to be going over today. But in all those cases, it's very important that you actually call set color on the object that you want to set the color for, okay? Notice all the methods in CodeHS, all the functions, you just say the name of the object you want to call the method on, dot the method, right? And then in parentheses, the thing that you want to pass, any parameters that you need to pass. Okay, so now if we go back up here, if we look at the color, the first thing they have here is they have this color object that has a bunch of constants, right? So one way we could do that, do the color, is we could just say var, and let's say we wanted like a purple circle. We could say purple circle equals a new circle. And we're just gonna pick a radius 50, okay? And then we're gonna make a purple color. Actually, I'm gonna make the color first. So I'm gonna say var purple color. And you can get a purple color by just saying color dot purple. Notice the purple is in all caps. I think CodeHS lets you write it in all lowercase only as a convenience. But I would get used to accessing constants like this. They're usually in all caps like this. Okay, so then if I've made the purple color and I've made a circle, then the last thing is I need to make sure that I set the color of the circle. So I can say purple circle, purple cir, dot set color. Notice the C in color is capitalized. That's typical for all the functions. It will be lowercase to start with, and then uppercase each word after the first word, and that's how you name your functions too, when you're creating functions. Okay, so purple cir dot set color, and then I just need to pass it my purple color. And yes, if you're wondering, I could also have just written color dot purple, like right here in the parentheses. That would have worked as well. But I'm gonna do, for each of these methods, I'm actually gonna just explicitly make a variable that stores the color and then pass the variable in, and that's the same thing because your variable is a reference to this value, right? This color, and then I'm passing the variable in, which means I'm passing that color. Okay. So then in order to see the circle, I need to decide where it's going to go and add it to the screen. So I'm going to say purple cir dot set position. Oops. And I'm going to just set it at 50-50 so that it is tangent to the upper and left side. So it's just right on screen in the upper left. And then I'm going to make, and then I'm going to add it. Okay, so add purple cir. Okay, so if I run this, now I've got my purple circle in the upper left corner. Okay, so that's using the constants, right? If I change this to like orange then it's going to be an orange circle, right? Of course, then I probably would want to change my variable name, but that's okay. Let's go back to purple so it matches the name. All right, so next way to set the color is we're going to change the color. So instead of, so I'm going to take all this, we're going to just change a few things. So instead of purple color, I'm going to call this RGB color. And the goal here is that I'm going to use, which is in the docs here, I'm going to use this method here where there's a color constructor that takes 3 values. Each value has to be from 0 to 255. And if you had, okay, so if you had all the colors 0, it would be black. And if you had all the colors 255, it would be white, because white is like the presence of all colors. Black is the absence of all colors. Okay, so everything in between is kind of all the other colors. You can actually see RGB colors. If you just go to RGB color picker, if you just Google that RGB color picker, you'll get a color picker. Actually, wait, why am I getting, usually RG, what did I type? RGB color picker. Maybe it says, oh yeah, this is what I meant. Okay, so this usually brings up Google's like RGB color picker, which is nice and convenient. So you can see here, there's like a scale. You can slide this around, and this kind of changes you from red to yellow to green to blue. So this is just changing, and you can see down here, these are the values, right? So purple, which is the color we just used, you can see that's just a mixture of mostly red and blue, right? In fact, if you went like 255 red and 255 blue, and you went 0 green, then that would be like magenta, okay? And then as you move the colors, if the numbers in general, notice if the numbers in general are lower, that makes it darker. So if you want like a nice dark purple, but you can see in all the really purple examples, the red and the blue are both higher than the green, right? In fact, there could be like 0 green. That would be like all the way over here on the extreme side. Okay, so the point is you pick your 3 values and you've got an RGB color, right? So you can either slide it around here, or you can just literally like change the colors in here. So like, let's say I'm gonna get like a nice little like greenish color here, but like not pure green. So then I could just copy those 3 values, and I could say new color and just pass those 3 values, right? And this would make that color. And then I'm going to call this RGB circle. And that means I need to make sure that that's the circle that I reference, right? If all I did was, if I left all these the same, then it would have just changed the color of the existing purple circle. And then all we would have seen was this color circle, right? We'd have been a little confused. Okay, and we need to make sure we add the RGB circle. And I'm going to set the position this time to 100. 100. Okay, so then if we run that, oh, whoops, check it out. we forgot one important thing. We passed it purple color, but we need to pass it RGB color, right? So if you don't get all, that's one of the disadvantages of what I just did there, where I copy pasted a bunch of code, is that you really have to make sure that you've changed all the things you're supposed to change, or you'll get weird results. So if it doesn't seem to work the way that you're expecting, just double check that everything got changed, right? Now if we run it, there's that green. Okay, so now we've got, so that's how you do the RGB colors, right? If I was to change these to all 0, right? Now it's black. If I changed it to all 255, now it's white. And, you know, anything in between is, if I want it to be like more, let's see. So if I want it to be like a dark red, I could be like, okay, so like kind of a low red, maybe even like 80. And then to be darker, you want the average color to be lower. So like, as long as I kept these ones pretty low, then it's going to be pretty dark. This might actually be really dark. If I do, let's see, 40, so that the red is still the overpowering color. There we go. That's like, it's actually more of a purple, because the red and the blue I think are too close together. So maybe if I upped the red a little bit, it gets a little bit darker, or a little bit more red, but notice it got a little lighter, right? So other thing I could do is just reduce the amount of blue. There we go. There's a nice like dark red. Okay, so now you can see how that works. All right, so then the other thing you may have noticed when you were over here in the color picker is you see this hex. And this is actually the way that you define colors in HTML. So this is also, I would call this the HTML color, and it's just hashtag. And then these first 2 digits are the red value. So in fact, 4A is exactly 74 in base 16. So what this is a base 16 number. And then 6-1 is actually 97 in base 16. And then 0-5 is 5 in base 16. That's because it's only 1 digit, right? So it's just the 5. Okay, and you'll notice sometimes that the hex numbers will have letters in them. That's because, like the A6 here, or the A right here, that's because the digits for base 16, since it's base 16, so it doesn't just go to 9. Instead of 0 to 9, you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it goes A is 10, B is 11, C is 12, D is 13, E is 14, and F is 15, right? And because it's base, so just like because in base 10, 10 is 1, 0, base 16, 16 is 1, 0, right? So like if I change this to, whoops, so if I change this color from 5 to like 16, then notice the last 2 digits are 1, 0. There you go. Okay, I'm not gonna go over hex too much. That's about as far as I'm gonna go with it. Bottom line is, you could take a hex color like this, and actually let's make it a different color, like a bluish there. This works pretty good. Even make it like more cyanish, like light, like there. Okay, so then if I took this color and I copied that hex value and I went back here, I could say var HTML color equals, and then the trick here is that you have to put this in quotes, right? So in quotes as a string, you give HTML color, and then the rest is the same, right? So then we can select, so I'm just gonna write it. Okay, so we say var HTML circle equals a new circle, size 50 again, and then HTML circle dot set color, and this time we want it to be HTML color, the one that we picked right here. And again, just like I mean, in all these cases, you know, just like with the constant, you know, we could have written this whole thing here that says like new color, like we could have written that instead of making a variable, right? We could just plugged it right in here in the parentheses. Same thing here, we could take this string and just plug it in right there. And that would work just fine, right? So like if we just wrote that, that would be the same thing. It's just that sometimes it's nice. In fact, I often define my colors as like constants at the top of the code. And then once they're variables, then you can just use them wherever you need them. Okay, so then we've got HTML color. Okay, and then we set position, HTML ser.set position to, and then this is going to be at 150. 150. It's going to keep moving by 50, 50 each time. And then we're going to add HTML circle. Okay. I actually highly recommend that you don't do too much like copy pasting, because like when you copy paste things, then you're not really paying attention to what you're doing. And when you're first learning, like paying attention to all the details and like really learning the syntax well is important. So, all right, let's hit run on that one. And there's our light blue circle. Great. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to look at is how would you make something have a little bit of transparency, right? And the way that you can do that is if you look up RGBA CSS, you can see here W3 Schools has a nice little tutorial on how, and this actually covers like how does RGB values work as well. So this would be good if you wanted for further reading, if you wanted to understand a little bit more. And then now it starts talking about RGBA, right? So this is the this is like a CSS function, which is a way of setting the style for a website. You can set the style of different objects so that if you set them to an RGBA, then it's going to have transparency. So you can see examples here. So let's go back to this. What it comes down to in CodeHS is that just like you can pass a string here for the HTML color, since the RGBA is really like an HTML like CSS feature, it's like a feature of the style. What CodeHS actually does when it draws these objects is it sets the style of the object. And so it's literally the same thing as if you had set the CSS property of that object, which means that you can actually use the RGBA as a string, right? So you could say var RGBA color equals, and then in quotes, you would say RGBA, and then you pass it a red, green, blue, and an alpha. So the red, green, blue is the same as the RGB that we just talked about up here, where each value is from 0 to 255. But then if you notice in the documentation here, it says that the alpha is, notice the alpha is a decimal value, right? So the alpha is from 0, which is fully transparent, to 1.0, not transparent at all. And you can see the range here exactly, right? Here's 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and 1. Okay, so I'm gonna just pick some, let's see here. This is like a blue, let's do like a green now. So let's say this was like little bit of red, a lot of green, and a little bit of blue, maybe like 100. Actually, not too much blue because I want it to nicely contrast with that one. Let's do that. Okay, and then the alpha, I'm going to say 0.6. All right, so then now let's make the circle var RGBA, RGBA circle equals a new circle 50 again, and RGBA circle dot set color to RGBA color. Okay, and again, this would be the same thing as if we just passed this whole string in here. Okay, and then we can say RGBA circle dot set position, and this one will be at 200, 200, and then RGBA dot, oh wait, whoops, sorry. And then that's it. Now we just say add RGBA circle. Okay, there we go. So if we were to run this now, you can see this circle is greenish, but look at this, like unlike these other ones, you can actually like see the blue circle underneath the green circle, right? And that's because the transparency is 0.6, right? So it's at least partially transparent, right? If we were to change this, so like let's say we change this to 0.2 and run again, now you can see, you can barely even see that circle, right? Because it's just barely visible. 0.2 means it's almost invisible. If we do 8.8, now it's a bit darker, but even though it's only slightly transparent, you can still see the blue circle underneath, right? And if you were to change it to 1, then this would be the same thing as if you just used RGB, right? It's going to just be fully, it's going to not be transparent at all, right? So usually I think, 0.6 or 0.5, somewhere around in the middle makes for a good visibility, so you can see underneath. But again, it's, what's your purpose, right? You decide. 0.7 looks pretty good. Okay, so now you know how to make things transparent. And then the last thing is sometimes you just want to pick a random color. So to do that, if you go to the docs, this one is actually in, actually I'm going to show you, there's actually 2 things you can do here. So let's say you wanted it to be random, but you still wanted it to be like mostly red, mostly green, or mostly blue, right? So you could say random red equals color dot random red. And then I'm just gonna like take all this. Actually, I'm gonna say random color, and we're gonna just try a bunch of different colors with the same circle. Okay, so this is gonna be like random circle. Make sure we change that everywhere here. And then random color is gonna be right here. And the first random color we're gonna try is, notice, so we make a variable to store it, right? And then we pass that variable here. Again, we could have also just done this, right? Just put color.randomRed right in there. In fact, why don't I just demonstrate that? And then we're going to make this one 250. Okay, so if we run that, there's a random red, but watch, if I keep running it, it keeps picking a different red, right? Some of them are darker, some of them are lighter, right? So you get some kind of random red, but it's definitely red. Okay, if I do random green, now it's going to be some kind of random green. right? And if I do, and again, you know, this, I was just showing this works the same whether you set it as a variable. One advantage of setting it as a variable is if you were planning to make 2 random circles and you wanted them to be the same random color, then you could choose the color once up here, choose random color, and then you just set each color, set each circle to that same random color. Now notice one of the things I did here when I copy pasted is I got 2 variables that are the same. You should never name the circles the same, because then you're like reintroducing the same variable again. So always name them different. So let's name this one circle 1, this circle 2. Okay, and then this will be at 300. Okay, so notice, oh, whoops. What happened there? Ransir. Oh, right, because I changed that to Ransir 1. We got to change that one too. Okay. Oh yeah, I should have checked this out. Wait, I'm gonna undo that. Okay, so check this out. Did you know that you can do Control F and you can search for things? So like, let's say I searched for all the places where it says Ransir. Okay, so, and then up here, you can decide this button here is like, is it case sensitive? So we do want it case sensitive. And then here, do we want it to be like the whole word or do we want to catch partial words? In fact, the way it's written right now, you can kind of see all the highlighted, it's like little, just barely boxed. But do you see how it found all these Ransirs right here? But these are all like, this isn't really what I'm looking for because my goal is to find all the Ransirs that are just Ransirs and like replace them with Ransir 1, right? So then what I can do for that is I click this whole word only, and now notice now it only finds the Ransirs. And then if I do Control F a second time, okay, so just want to make sure you guys heard that. So it's Control F, right? Which is like find, right? If I do it a second time, then it gives me the option to replace. So I can do find replace. So I could say, I want to replace this with Ransir 1. Okay. And then looks like these buttons are messed up a little bit, but if I hit that first button, it's gonna just replace the first one it finds and then like be ready to replace. I could just keep hitting one at a time. Or I think if you hit this button, I don't know why the buttons aren't labeled, but if you hit this button, this will replace all cases, right? So notice it just happened instantly. Okay, so if you're sure that you've found only the matches that you really want to change, then you can just hit the far right button and it'll change them all. If you wanted to review each one at a time, you could hit this button and just keep hitting it. Okay, so that's the search and replace. Very useful. All right, so we fixed it now. All right, so if I hit run now, let's see, we've got, oh, whoops, I undid. Okay. Somewhere in my undoing, I undid the new position, right? So notice I only have one circle here. There we go. Now we got 2 circles, and notice they're each a random color, but they're always the same random color, right? Now, so if you looked in the docs, there's random red, random green, random blue, but then there's also, if you just don't care which color it is, it doesn't have to be specifically red, green, or blue, then you can just say randomizer dot next color, right? So that would be, I would just change this to randomizer dot next color, and that's going to just pick. essentially it'll just pick a random red value, random green value, random blue value. Each one is between 0 and 255, so it potentially could be any color, right? But notice again, because I made the variable and then set the circles to that same variable, they're always the same random color, right? If I were to call randomizer.nextColor on each circle, instead of using the variable like that, then now they're each random, but they're also like different random colors, right? So, you know, depending on what your effect you're trying to achieve, you either way could be the right way, right? It depends on what you're trying to do. All right, so now you've seen a lot of different ways to set colors for graphics objects. Hope you enjoyed that, and happy coding. Goodbye.